नारा नारायणं पद्मभवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्र पराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्द योगीन्द्र अत अस्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्य अत अस्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं शिष्यं तं तोटकं वार्तिकाकारम् अनन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततम् अनतोऽस्मि। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ध्यान श्लोकम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनीना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्ण प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रकृपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतहृदे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दोक्ता गोपालनन्दन पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवति कृपेण वह्नि कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी स्तोतिर्ना खलु पाण्डवैरनदि कैवर्तकेशवाः पाराशर्यवत्सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानकेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनं श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपात्तमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुता शृण्वन्ति दिव्यश्रवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्तीं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्सान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगण देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।
30 ಸುಖಂ ತಿದಾನಿಂ 35 36 ಇರಬೇಕೇನು?
ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತಾ ಶ್ರೀ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪರಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣೇ ನಮಃ. ಅಷ್ಟಾದಶೋऽಧ್ಯಾಯಃ ಮೋಕ್ಷ ಸನ್ಯಾಸ ಯೋಗಃ.
36th verse.
35 or 36. सुखं तिदानीं त्रिविधं शृणु मे भरतर्षभा. अभ्यासाद्रमते यत्र दुःखान्तं च निगच्छति. यत्तदग्रे विषमिव परिणामे अमृतोपमम्. तत्सुखं सात्विकं प्रोक्तम् आत्मबुद्धिप्रसादजम्. विषयेन्द्रियसंयोगात् यत्तदग्रे अमृतोपमम्. परिणामे विषमिव तत्सुखं राजसं स्मृतम्. यदग्रे चानुबन्धे च सुखं मोहनमात्मनः. निद्रालस्य प्रमादोत्थं तत्तामसमुदाहृतम् न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिः गुणैः
Sure. So we, in the last 3-4 classes, we studied the various activities, what impact it does to us. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas gunas are contracted by various activities we do, and all that I have summarized here in these two tables here. Let me see if I can get this. Okay. Anyway, this we started with the food way back in the 17th chapter. We started with the food. There are 3 kinds of food: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. I'm not going to go in detail about that. And then 3 kinds of worship. Yajnas, for the sake of doing yajnas, seeking fruits of it, and doing something just for the I have to do. That's kind of, so that is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Similarly, austerity, charity, and tyaga, renunciation, jnana, knowledge, they are all characterized according to how we perform all these things. Austerity, I have to do this, and doing it without desiring fruits is sattvika, and then doing it for a show, that is rajasic, and then I do a tapas to hurt other people, so that is tamas. Again, charity, not expecting anything in return favor, but doing that will be sattvika, and then doing something expecting someday this will help me, with that kind of mindset, that is rajasic charity. And then dana is sometime you're forced to give a charity. You don't have the emotional satisfaction in giving, but you just do it because you have to do. That is tamasic. Then renunciation, tyaga, particularly this refers to the karma tyaga. If you're detached and no expectation of the outcome, doing karma without expectation of the outcome, that would be sattvika tyaga. And rajasika and tyagasika are the tamas are described by expecting the fruits of action, and they're doing actions out of no other choice. That would be tamasic. Knowledge also, like where you see, this is important, you see the same Paramatma in everyone, that would be a sattvika jnana, and seeing different people as different, that is rajasika jnana. And tamasika jnana is what you see is what you get. You see the body, there is nothing beyond the body. That kind of knowledge is tamasika knowledge. Then karma, there is a prescribed karma, I do it without attachment, that would be sattvika karma. Rajasika karma is I do that whatever is prescribed, but I want some benefit out of it right away. That is rajasika karma. And the tamasic karma is, like confused whether I should do it or not, somehow doing it without any conviction. That would be tamasic karma. And the karta are similarly described being detached, and then rajasic is being attached. And this tamasic karma, a doer is one who procrastinates. There is no plan in him to do. Whatever he can do, he just will do. That is tamasic karta. Intellect and the resoluteness are also described by sattva, rajas, and tamas, depending on the attitude with which we engage in life. And then sukha, ultimately all these various activities that we have done, and they give some kind of happiness. And that happiness is described as sattva, rajas, and tamas, we discussed in the last class. Initially, it will be painful, but it ends in bliss. That would be a sattvika happiness. Then I want benefit right now. I don't care about what happens in the future. That would be a rajasic happiness. And the tamasic happiness is, even if you are sorrow, thinking that is happiness, that is tamasika happiness. It's delusional. So, and then a object of worship, how all these are impacted by what we worship also. Worshipping gods and celestials is sattvika worship. Worshipping demons or other human beings is rajasic worship. When I say the other human beings, sometimes in politics, they cling on to some people who almost they worship them. That is rajasic happiness. And the tamasic happiness is worshipping spirits, etc. That is tamasic happiness. Now, how do we get all these various sattvaras and tamas proclivities in us by these various activities? That we have discussed earlier. I'll recall that again here. So these 36 verses, they guide us to understand, first of all, where we are now and what we should do to get to a higher plane. For example, if I am a doer, I'm doing like seeking fruits of action, I'm a rajasic doer. Now, if I want to get to the sattvic doer, what do I have to do? I have to start being detached from the work, and I should not seek the fruits of action, just do the work. That, like that, it gives us to these dozen different characteristics or activities give us two measures. One is where I am now. I can place myself in the map of proclivity where I am. And then if I want to get to some other point in that proclivity map, how would I get there? That also points in this one. So these are the 36 verses. And where do we draw these proclivities, these gunas? We saw this earlier. This guna is in the prakriti. Sattvaras and tamas in various entities, they are there. Now, we draw the sattvaras and tamas proclivity from these a dozen or so entities of nature, depending on how we interact with nature. All activities happen in nature, and therefore how we interact with this nature, that we draw this respective proclivity or guna. I'll give you an example. There is a well very close to a person that is salt water. And then further out, there is a well that gives you, let's say, good water, tasty water. And then further out there is another well which gives you sweet water. So you got salt water, tasty water, and sweet water. Now, depending on how I'm, which well I go to draw the water, I get either a salt water, I get a tasty water, or I get a sweet water. These sattva, rajas, and tamas of the gunas are like that. We draw from these sattva, rajas, and tamas of the nature, and that becomes a part of our nature, our individual nature, characterized by the guna. And for that, Krishna has given us the 12 different categorizations, how we can manipulate or fashion our gunas. Now, why do we have to construct a guna for us like this? Because that is what determines the next life. That's what Krishna is saying in the next verse. Brahmana kshatriya visham shudranam cha parantapa karmani pravibhaktani swabhava prabhavair gunaihi. Like you, if you draw the salt water, every day until the salt water pot is emptied, you consume only the salt water. So if I do tamasic activities, I am born in tamasic environments. Similarly for rajasic and sattvic, and Krishna describes here. So we started with this in the last class. So what is Swabhava and Swabhava Bharana? I'll repeat this, whatever we did in the last class. It's important to understand this correctly. So what is Swabhava and Swabhava Bharana? Swabhava is the inheritance of a person from past life or lives. So if yesterday I drew the water from the salt well, today I have to be satisfied with the salt water. That is what here the equivalent of the Swabhava is. So in the past life, I did so and so activities, and those so and so activities created a certain samskaras or impressions, and they show up as my Swabhava, my nature in this life. So a person experiences transmigration based on these virtuous or sinful karmas he practiced the previous lives. It can be one life or it can be 10 lives. So the birth and death are dependent on the karma of the jiva, and jiva has no decision making independently. When I say birth and death, I am born in a certain environment, and how long do I have, what kind of death I suffer, are all dependent on the gunas also. So the birth and death are dependent on this karma, and what kind are the interaction with the prakriti. So the jiva is therefore dependent on two factors in his transmigration. One is the fruits of karma he has to experience. Whatever karma I did, there's a fruit associated with that I have to experience. And then on top of it, the karma I did in my past life imprints certain impressions in my body, in my mind, and those impressions coalesce to form a guna, and that becomes my Swabhava. I inherit that guna in this life. So the jiva is bound these two forces, and these two forces drive me to the appropriate womb for me to take birth in my next life. So in transplanting to another body, the jiva brings along with it the impressions and the guna, the impressions of the past life and the guna it brings along with it. That inherited guna is his Swabhava or nature. So in properly executing the desired prescribed karmas of these three of these varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, that Krishna is describing here, that will prepare me for my next life. If I did my karma correctly, according to what Krishna did suggested, I am making progress towards spiritual growth, and I'll be born in environment that will aid me in my spiritual journey. So following the heavenly life, they will return to human birth to experience the other karmas in different lands, different varnas, or different enjoyments of material wealth, etc. Everything depends on that. Now, here is said he will attain to heavenly benefits, and then following the heavenly benefits, he will return to human birth. I said that comes from the 6th chapter. I'm going to share with you that particular verse because it's of importance to hear. In this 41st and the 42nd verse of the 6th chapter, he says, Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvatihi samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashtobi jayate. So after having attained some virtuous benefits, he will go take to punya lokas, and then he will spend certain time there, and then he will take birth in Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe, in the houses of the pure people. He will take birth like that. And he may also, if conditions or environment is sufficiently appropriate, Athava Yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam. He may even see, for a person who is a sattvika, he doesn't care about heavenly benefits also. He wants spiritual growth. And in such a case, that person will go directly to an environment where the spiritual growth can be continued, spiritual progress can be continued in pursuing his path towards liberation. So this is what we call as Swabhava. So now, in today's world, there is no allegiance to the prescribed karma. It was there in a certain time. It is not there in today's world. So people enjoy freedom to select a karma. Now, when I enjoy the freedom to select a karma, now I am only seeking artha and kama, that is material benefits and passion, fulfillment of desires. That is all I am. When I in selecting a karma, I select based on, do I get enough monthly income, or do I get comforts in my home, or in my car or whatever it is. That is the basis of my selection of karma. But this will not help in attaining to dharma and moksha. That is the important differentiator between prescribed karma and freedom to select karma. So my growth is limited only to material wealth. If I select my karma, I'm not going to add any value, any credits towards the dharma and moksha. That we'll see in the next couple of verses. So life of the jiva is initially, though we come up with certain traits in this life, I have the opportunity to shape my future life. See, this is the very misconceived thought about the Hindu religion. People, they think that particularly the Western religions, Western people think that the Hinduism is fatalistic. See, it is fatalistic only in the sense, if you look at it from the material growth perspective, from the spiritual growth perspective, it is the most open system that allows you to pursue whatever path we want. So therefore, the every life of the jiva is an opportunity to build a spiritual resume for future lives. I have full freedom to pursue how I do my karma and attain to spiritual evolution. That is the important aspect of the engagement in karma. Now, I said freedom of karma does not add to spiritual growth and evolution. Why? See, karma yoga and freedom of action are ours to each other. It's karma yoga that helps me make spiritual progress. Freedom of action is only making me benefit artha and kama, and therefore they are opposed to each other. Karma yoga and freedom of action are ours to each other. So seeking to enjoy the fruits is invested in the freedom of action. Like if I want to be a doctor, then there's some benefit I'm already expecting being a doctor, and therefore that enjoyment of the benefits is already invested in the freedom of action if I chose to become a doctor or an engineer or whatever it is. So the because that fruits of enjoyment is already built into the freedom of action, the freedom of action does not contribute towards spiritual growth. So accordingly, depending on the guna that I inherit from my past lives, I am classified as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra based on the karmas that I can efficiently perform. Here, Krishna describes as Svabhava Prabhavaihi. This is born of Prakriti. That is the Prakriti of the individual, not the Prakriti of the universe. From the Prakriti of the universe, we draw the gunas depending on what karma we do, how karma we do, and that becomes the individual Prakriti or the individual nature. So it is this individual nature that propels me towards the appropriate womb in my next birth. So it is the gunas that are born of Prakriti, and the gunas of individuals become their nature. That becomes their how they inherently behave in this world. And so the karmas are categorized according with the distribution of the gunas. My guna is good for efficiently doing certain kind of karma, and that becomes the natural fit karma for me, and that is the prescribed karma. The prescribed karma is not to the individual, but the prescribed karma is to the guna. That is the big difference we have to understand. So all the three gunas are present in all human beings, but in varying proportions, depending on how we interact with the outside nature, the prakriti of the universe. So the predominant guna in every person therefore determines his nature. If one has a sattva guna predominant, he is a sattvic person, that his nature is sattvic, and likewise rajasic or tamasic. And that particular nature or the guna allows me to do efficiently certain kind of actions. And those certain kind of actions are what is described as the natural fit actions. And doing it that way becomes the most efficient way of doing for himself, as well as he is contributing to the society also. So the karmas of the four categories can be performed by other people, but less efficiently and less benefit to society. See, the whole structure of the society is built upon one helping the other in order to help everyone attain to their highest capability, that is the moksha. Now, in selecting the our karma, freedom of action, there is no such availability of ascending to the maximum capability, that is the moksha. So, four predominant natures emerge out of the proportions of the gunas that we inherit from our past active actions. Predominant sattva with minor traces of rajas and tamas, and this predominant sattva proclivity is the driver for certain karma and is called the nature of a brahmana. Now, the brahmana is only a label. It's the guna underneath that label is what makes him called a brahmana. Like a director, he directs the projects in the entire department. Now, the director is a label, but the actions he performs in managing hundreds of people under him, that is what he is capable of doing by the experience he has drawn and the qualifications he brings to the job. Now, predominant rajas with minor sattva, that's the second category, and that is described as the nature that can perform the duties of security and maintaining the life in the society secure. So that is called a kshatriya. The rajas predominant sattva is the kshatriya who fights war, who maintains the order in the society. Now, predominant rajas with minor tamas is characterized as vaishya. That vaishya is, he can perform efficiently trade and various kinds of businesses. And the predominant tamas with minor sattva or traces of rajas or rajas and tamas, they are characterized as the shudra, which is a good fit for providing service. So these four groups are prescribed certain karmas in accordance with their guna distribution that they can efficiently perform, and this efficiency at the individual level ultimately builds up to the efficient universe. That is the theory behind this prescription of karma, which is a natural fit to that particular person of certain guna distribution. So the efficient functioning of the universe in dharma is the mission of the creator. After all, if there is an, let's take for example, Apple or Amazon. If Apple or Amazon hired thousands of people and let them choose whatever they want to do in the company, then Apple or Amazon would not be as successful as they are successful today. What is the success factor in Apple or Amazon? To build capital, to increase the profits. That's the motivation for that karma, for that business. And if thousands of people are allowed to do whatever they like, that goal of the company will not be met, and it could not have been successful as it is successful today. Similarly, in prescribing a karma that is in alignment with the guna distribution, the universe is maintained at the most efficient level, and it is the objective of the mission of the creator that the universe should function at the most efficient level. And in order to achieve that efficiency of the universe, these certain rules are laid out. And in this, what is in it for me? I have spiritual growth. Just like there's a personal growth for a person who is working in an organized environment, like division of duties in a company. There is a personal growth also with respect to experience, gaining experience and knowledge in that particular job he is doing. Like that also, the individual here has a personal growth with respect to liberation. So the Brahmana duties reflect his major sattva. The Kshatriya duties reflects his major rajas and sattva combination. The Vaishya duties reflect the predominant tamas and rajas combination. And the Shudra duties are in sync with major tamas guna. So these are the 4 classifications. And these 4 varnas are complementary and supportive of each other. It's not that they hate each other or anything. All of them do their karma equally, with equal zeal, with equal interest. Then all are complementary to each other. All are equally important. And all of them doing the karma that is natural fit in accordance with what the Lord expects. They are all making progress towards the spiritual growth. And that is, after all, the dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Moksha is the ultimate goal. And that goal of life is you add to it brick by brick by doing the karma that is a natural fit to every one of us. So the society well-being and hence the universe anchored in dharma is dependent on the mutual cooperation of the 4 varnas at the aggregate level. And this also allows for personal spiritual growth at the individual level. Both are met in maintaining this prescribed karma model that is of natural fit to every individual. So this mutual cooperation is symbolized in Virat Purusha, that one entity that can be viewed as different beings. So what prepares me for my next birth? It is what karma I do and how I do. That is what prepares me for my next life. So this is how, because it creates a certain guna distribution in me. And this guna distribution inherent from past lives, everyone's natural fit karma is defined and prescribed. So spiritual evolution is possible in following this natural fit karma, not a freedom of action. Now, if I want to draw an example, if you have a computer in which you have a hard drive, and that hard drive has certain files built into, stored in it. And in the process of working, you also somehow inherit in that computer, in that hard drive, some virus or some cookies placed by different companies in it. Now you take this hard drive and put it in another computer, and in that computer, the hard drive behaves exactly the way it was behaving in the previous computer. Like that, this computer is like the physical body, and the hard drive is like the mind, which stores all these gunas. And this hard drive, when it is placed in the another computer, it is no wonder it is behaving exactly the way it was behaving in the other computer. That means the new computer has inherited those files and these viruses that came along with the hard drive. So all our activities, all our files, all our karma files, all our gunas, everything is stored in our mind. And it is this mind that leaves this body and deposits itself in another body. That is what a new life is, a new birth is. So this inheritance continues like that. So we said that these 4 varnas are complementary and supportive of each other. So society well-being is maintained, and therefore universe anchored in dharma has two values to it, is dependent on the mutual cooperation of the four varnas at the aggregate level, and a spiritual, personal spiritual growth at the individual level. Okay. So the imprints of karma performed in a previous life manifest in this life as the nature, as the Swabhava Prabhavaihi we discussed through the performance of actions. That nature responsible for the gunas, that is called the Swabhava Guna. That guna does not manifest without a reason. There is a reason, because that is what was stored in that mind in the previous life. And that same mind is now operating in another physical body. And therefore, the continuity of that guna from past life to this life. Thus, the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, Bharan of Prakriti, that is the Bharan of Prakriti, we saw that slide where all the various gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, what is in water, what is in worshipping God, all those. So that is the part from which we draw our individual sattva, rajas, and tamas. And therefore, they give rise to, depending on how we draw the gunas from the Prakriti, the aggregate Prakriti, our individual gunas are fashioned, and that individual guna gives rise to the four different classification of births, and those classified births will be explained in the later verses. So this one, slide I have put together looking at these various verses we studied in the 18th chapter, plus two verses from the 14th chapter, 14:14 and 14:15. And then it also draws on something on the 6th chapter. I will refer to that a little later. So what does the 14:14 say? 14:14 says, Yada Satve Pravruddhetu Pralayam Yati Dehavruta Tadottama Vidam Lokan Amalan Pratipadyate. When Sattva is on the rise, if a person dies, then in the next life, Tadottama Vidam Lokan Amalan Pratipadyate, next birth, he gets into a higher life. He says Uttama Lokan. So this is how the birth takes place. Now, from Purana, we say there are Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Now, in the Krita Yuga, according to the Puranas, people are meditation centric. They are capable of doing meditation for thousands and thousands of years. Now, Treta Yuga, coming back to Rama's period, Dharma prevailed everywhere. Now, the Krita Yuga, they have transcended Dharma. They did all the Dharma activities. And then because of that, they have the capability to engage in years of meditation. And so the Treta Yuga is Dharma-centric. The Krita Yuga is meditation-centric. What is in Dwapara Yuga? Dwapara Yuga is worship-centric. There is a lot of yajna yagas being done in the Dwapara Yuga. And doing that yajna yaga in accordance with the dharma, it makes them dharmic, and that will elevate them to birth, which is to live in a very dharma society. Now, what is in Kali Yuga? We are desire motivated action centric. We want to determine what karma we want to do. Freedom of action we expect. And that freedom of action, I earlier said, is already desire is built into it. Therefore, desire motivated action, this is in Kali Yuga. Now, what is predominant in Kali Yuga? Tamas and Rajas are in balance. Now, in the Dwapara Yuga, predominant Rajas with Sattva, doing a lot of worship and all needs a lot of Rajasic guna, Rajasic activity is in play there. And there's Sattva. Sattva helps worship the God. And therefore, in the Dwapara Yuga, predominant Rajas with Sattva. In the Treta Yuga, Sattva and Rajas are in balance. You need in order to do dharma, you should have the rajas also, and that rajas is directed at doing sattvika activities. Therefore, that Treta Yuga, sattva and rajas are in balance, and in Krita Yuga, predominant sattva. So this predominant sattva is what makes them able to do meditation, because rajas is subdued now. Here there is rajas, here there is not that much rajas, very little of rajas, and rajas helps, lack of rajas helps him to sit in one place and do meditation. And therefore, the Krita Yuga people are predominant sattva. Now, I titled this slide as potential birth distribution. So the high sattva has a higher probability of birth in Krita Yuga. Then balanced sattva and rajas has a higher probability of birth in Treta Yuga. In the Dwapara Yuga, higher rajas with sattva has a higher probability of birth in the Dwapara Yuga. And in the Kali Yuga, the balanced rajas and tamas has a higher probability of birth in this Kali Yuga. How? See, because tamas means we are ignorant of the spiritual nature, and therefore we are tamas as a centric. Tamas is high, and desire motivated action requires rajas, and therefore we are in this Kali Yuga. We are in the balance of rajas and tamas. There is some sattvika, sattva. Anyway, with this, what happens here is this. If I have mostly rajas and tamas, whereas here in Krita Yuga, there is only high sattva, very little rajas and tamas, I become unqualified. I do not qualify to be born in the Krita Yuga. I'm using the word probability. It's not certainty. There are some situations where even Krita Yuga is possible. I mean, birth in Krita Yuga is possible for someone with balance and rajas tamas. But the most probable is I will not be born in Krita Yuga. I may not be born in Treta Yuga. I may not even qualify to be born in Dwapara Yuga. And in that case, I will have to wait for the next Krita Yuga, which is another a few million years later, that I can take birth again. And this is, as I said, I have put together based on a few verses. And now let us look at one case here. High sattva, he obviously is a misfit in the Kali Yuga. So what does he do? Does he wait? He has to wait also for a number of years, millions of years, until the next Krita Yuga comes. Now, this is where I said that chapter 6, 41st verse. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashtobi jayate. This person having high sattva, he is capable of being born in heaven because of his gunas. So he will spend some 500 million years in as Indra, let us say, and then in the next cycle of Krita Yuga, he can come back and take another human birth. That is what it says here. Ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto bijayate. So those who did not fully rise into liberation in the Krita Yuga, they will go to lives in the heaven for millions of years. And when the next Krita Yuga comes, he will take birth in another family that will promote him towards meditation, and ultimately he may get liberation. So this is the combined effect of all the activities and the gunas. This is, you will not see this slide in any one commentary individual, you'll have to look at various verses in the Bhagavad Gita to come up with this verse. So this is my own creation. To the extent you can trust it, you can trust it. If you believe it is not worth trusting it, that's fine too. Okay, with that I will move on. Let us learn this verse. Brahmana kshatriya visham
Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Shudranam cha parantapa.
Shudranam cha parantapa Shudranam cha parantapa
Karmani pravibhaktani.
Karmani pravibhaktani Karmani pravibhaktani
Swabhava prabhavaihi gunai.
Swabhava prabhavair gunaihi Swabhava prabhavaihi gunaihi
Brahmana kshatriya visham shudranam cha parantapa. Karmani pravibhaktani. Swabhava prabhavair gunai.
Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranam cha parantapa Karmani pravibhaktani Swabhava prabhavair gunaihi Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranam cha parantapa Karmani pravibhaktani Swabhava prabhavair gunaihi
39 to 41.
Yadagre chanubandhe cha sukham mohanamaatmanaha nidralasya pramadotham tattamasamudahritam na tadasti pruthivyam va vivideveshu va punaha sattvam prakrutijairmuktam Yedevisyatrivirgunaihi Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranam cha parantapa Karmani pravibhaktani Swabhava prabhavair gunaihi.
Now, in the next 3 verses, it describes the duties of these 4 classifications of birth. Shamo damastapa shaucham shantirajavameva cha jnanam vijnanamastikhyam brahma karma svabhavajam. Shama dama tapa shaucha kshanti arjavam evacha, control of mind and sense organs, austerity in protecting dharma, cleanliness and purity, forgiveness and simplicity. Astikyam jnanam vijnanam, conviction in the Vedas, in God and life beyond, knowledge and Vedas. So Astikyam refers to all these: conviction in Vedas, God and life beyond. Jnanam is knowledge of the Vedas. Vijnanam is experiencing that knowledge. Brahma karma swabhavajam. These karmas are natural fit Brahmana's karma. Again, as I said, the karma is a prescription not so much to the individual, but to the guna that can be performed efficiently. So all these are karmas born of the nature of Brahmanas. Astikya is to have conviction in the teachings of the Shastra. Shastra means Veda. Astikya is the intellectual conviction of the existence and values of Vedas, describing Atma, God, etc. What does the Vedas describe? Basically, Vedas describe God, then the interaction, how to interact with the God. That is what the Vedas describe. And total conviction in them, belief in them, that following the teachings of the Shastras, I will be benefited. That is Astikya. Now, in order to implement that Astikya, I have to have a certain Shama and Dhamma. Shama is control of the mind. Dhamma is the control of the sense organs. So I have to avoid certain things that are contrary to the worship with full conviction. So that requires certain control within me, and that is the Shama and Dhamma. The intellect keeping the activities of all organs in its control and merging in Atma is called Shama. So my goal is to merge in Atma, and that requires certain controls by the intellect to not let the mind and the sense organs go out to sense objects, because then I'll be in Prakriti. I will not be in Atma. In order to be in Atma, I have to isolate the Prakriti. And the way to isolate the Prakriti is to detach from the Prakriti itself, which is the sense objects. And so that interaction of the sense organs with sense objects is to be avoided. And for that, the mind also has to cooperate. So Dhamma refers to external sense organs. Dhamma is to manage the sense organs, deterred by the dharma and prevent them from engaging in adharma. So that ability to engage in dharma and retreat from adharma is in the intellect, and therefore that intellect has to cooperate to achieve that particular level of interaction or controlling the interaction with the Prakriti. Tapas is the austerity at the body, speech, and mind levels. We studied this in the 17th chapter, 14, 15, and 16 verses. The physical body tapas, mind tapas, and the vak tapas. So that was described. That has to be, again, all these require controlling the mind. So such that they are all engaged in the service of Ishvara. The tapas at the body, speech, and mind levels has to be such that Ishvara is in the focus and not the Prakriti. Now, what is the tapas or Prakriti we have seen earlier is the discipline of peacefully tolerating difficulties with ease, and one who has this samskara is a Brahmana. Now, what is meant by peacefully tolerating difficulties? I can tolerate difficulties, but I start complaining to everyone. I have to undergo so much trouble and all this. That is not peaceful toleration. Peaceful toleration is I endure the difficulties, and I'm happy with it. I'm not unhappy with it. So that is the peaceful toleration. Shanti is tolerance and forgiveness. So the tolerance and forgiveness are complementary to each other. Now, if I'm not forgiving, I'm not tolerant. See, forgiving is once I can accept, okay, this is the way it is. That is the tolerance. And then I can forgive, not to be swayed by the events of life and maintain an even disposition. For example, Earth is given as the most tolerant because everybody steps on the Earth, but the Earth accepts it as this is the way of life and forgives all living beings for abusing the Earth itself. So that is Shanti. Jnana is to clearly come to terms with that self-realization alone is the final goal. Now, there is several goals. We can have intermediate level goals, but all those goals have to be directed towards self-realization. That is the jnana. All outcome of action should lead towards self-realization. Whatever karma I do, does this have a bearing on my self-realization? Yes, follow it. No, give it up. So this should be resolved and practiced in the mind through the repeated reinforcement from this study of scriptures. So that is where Astikya comes into picture. I believe in the Shastra, but I may forget sometimes. So I have to keep in mind being reinforced again and again. This is the do, this is a don't. So in order to be in that mindset, in that frame of mind, I have to be repeatedly looking at these scriptures to make sure that I'm doing the right thing towards self-realization. Vijnana is the experiential knowledge of jnana. Vijnana is the progression of jnana attained from scriptures to personal experience. The Shastra says you do this, 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 you will be there. That is jnana. Now I follow this, this, and I attain to that experience myself, not the book knowledge, but myself I experience that. Then I don't need the Veda at all. I don't need the book. Once I attain to that Vijnana. So experiencing the known knowledge is Vijnana. Knowledge is Jnana. Experiencing that known knowledge is Vijnana. So for example, you have heard that sugar tastes sweet. That is knowledge. Now you yourself eat sugar and experience the sweetness of it. That is vijnana. So the knowledge experiencing the totality of physical, divine, and spiritual is vijnana. What is the totality of physical, divine, and spiritual? That the entire universe is God, and the divinity that is apart from the physical is also that God, and my attaining to it, that spiritual, that divinity, that is spiritual. Spiritual is the process then. So there's a physical entity, there's a divine entity, but the physical and divine are not different, and they're not different from me. That is the vijnana. Shamaha, damaha, tapaha, shaucham.
Shamaha damaha tapaha shaucham. Shamaha damaha tapaha shaucham.
Shantihi arjavam evacha.
Shantihi arjavam evacha. Shantihi arjavam evacha.
Jnanam vijnanam astikyam.
Jnanam vijnanam astikyam. Jnanam vijnanam astikyam.
Brahma karma svabhavajam.
Brahma karma svabhavajam. Brahma karma svabhavajam.
Shamodamastapashaucham. Kshantirarjavamevacha. Jnanam vijnanamastikyam. Brahma karma svabhavajam.
Shamodamastapashaucham. Shantirarjavamevacha. Jnanam vijnanamastikyam. Brahma karma svabhavajam. Shamodamastapashaucham. Shantirarjavamevacha. Jnanam vijnanamastikyam. Brahma karma svabhavajam.
40 to 42.
Natadasti prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jair muktam yadebhisyatri trivirgunaihi brahmana kshatriya visham shudranam cha parantapa karmani pravibhaktani svabhava prabhavairgunaihi shamodamastapashaucham shantirarjavamevacha jnana vijnanamastikyam brahma karma svabhavajam.
Shauryam tejo dhritir daksham yuddhe chapya palayanam dhanamishvara bhavascha kshatram karma svabhavajam. So the Kshatriya characteristics described here, the gunas that contribute to the behavior of the Kshatriya. Shauryam, Tejaha, Dhritihi, Daksham, valor, strength, fortitude, efficiency. Cha api yuddhe apalayanam, and also non-retreat from battlefield. Dhanam cha ishvara bhavaha, charity and leadership. Kshatram swabhavajam karma, or nature born or natural fit, Kshatriya karma. So the Kshatriya karma relates towards more of physical activity, and therefore this is we classified it as rajas high, accompanied with some minor sattva. So sattva keeps him stationed within dharma, and all his actions are in the totality of the dharma itself, and therefore this Kshatriya protects the society in that way. So nature fit actions of Kshatriyas are Shaurya, the heroism, daring and courageous. Those are the various descriptions you can have in English for Shaurya. Shaurya is the disposition of a hero or of a heroic or courageous person. He does not expect bodyguards. He naturally is strong and does not expect assistance of others. He is self-dependent on himself to accomplish karma. He does not hurt cause difficulties to other people. He can undertake his activities himself. Shaurya is the physical tolerance of extreme difficulties. When you do like that, when you depend on yourself, so many times extreme difficulties come, but you physically tolerate them. It is difficult to undergo those activities, but you tolerate them. That you should have. Tejas is to limit the influence of others, like sun limits the light of millions of stars. That is way we understand based on at least the distances of these stars from the earth. Therefore, the sun limits the light of the millions of stars. Therefore, a person who is a highly efficient tejasic person, he limits other people's abilities, means he shines above them. That's, I think, a better way to say. Tejas is a person having tejas, he shines above everybody. So the tejas is the physical expression of shaurya. That means you do a lot of good things to society, and that doing good things is shaurya, and that shows up when people recognize that. That is the tejas he has. Dhriti is the resoluteness or the fortitude of unfailing action even under the most difficult circumstances. Don't give up work. You have to do, you do it, and you, whatever may be the difficulties, you will tolerate that. And in order to tolerate that, he has the right set of gunas with him. So Dhriti, he pulls himself up in most challenging situations, and he does not give up. And both the mind and the physical body are engaged in the execution of this dhriti, because the mind has to say you do it, and the physical body, in spite of being tired, should rise up to the occasion. So both the physical body and the mind are contributors to dhriti. So they will undertake to continue the task in spite of various obstacles that may come in the way. And it is said, an example is given. The sculptor, he beats the stone with thousands and thousands of strokes, chisel hits, and then it becomes a beautiful image. But a stone that does not tolerate this kind of chisel hitting the stone, if it breaks, then it is not useful as a image, but everybody steps on it. So the dhriti is that ability to withstand any amount of trouble, and then the outcome is good feeling, having accomplished the job. And that example, the stone that tolerates the chisel strikes stands as an idol, while the one that cannot tolerate is stepped on it by everyone. Daksha is the capability to exercise his power and succeed in the task, efficacy. So dexterity in action is called daksha. Engaging in accidental actions also without delusion. And then another one is described apalayanam, not retreating from the battlefield. So that is another characteristic of the Kshatriya. And dana is to give in charity. The Kshatriya never receives a dana. We see this in Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc. Dana is only, the Kshatriya is only a giver of dana, not a taker of dana, because he has physical strength to accomplish everything. And therefore, he does not himself take dana. But he should be strongly motivated to give dana, and gives it with the full consent of the mind. That is Kshatriya, very generous in charities. Ishvara Bhava, leadership qualities to rule, is called Ishvara Bhava. And we see this Ishvara Bhava in many business leaders also. But the Ishvara Bhava is associated with that Ishvara Bhava, they have a lot of the desire motivation. So that is where the Ishvara Bhava limits itself to accomplishing certain things. So leadership qualities to protect, the righteous people by his capability and administer the kingdom. So the Raja Pratyaksha Devata is a statement in Sanskrit. Raja is a living God. Pratyaksha Devata. Pratyaksha is what you can directly experience through the sense organs. And therefore, the Raja is so powerful. He is like the living God, and he resolves or solves all the problems of society. So Ishwar Bhava is the ability to legislate with justice. There is no personal interest in that legislation. It is in the motivation for legislation is the societal benefit. That is Ishwara Bhava. Shauryam teja dhritihi dakshyam.
Shauryam tejaha dhrutihi dakshyam. Shauryam tejaha dhrutihi dakshyam.
Yuddhe cha api papalayanam.
Yuddhe cha api apalayanam. Yuddhe cha api apalayanam.
Danam Ishwara Bhavaha cha.
Danam Ishvara Bhavaha cha. Danam Ishvara Bhavaha cha.
Kshatram karma svabhavajam.
Kshatram karma svabhavajam. Kshatram karma svabhavajam.
Shauryam tejo dhritir daksham. Yuddhe chapya palayanam. Danam Ishvara bhavascha. Kshatram karma svabhavajam.
Shauryam tejo dhritir draksham. Drakshyam yuddhe chapya palayanam. Danamishvara bhavascha. Kshatram karma svabhavajam. Shauryam tejo dhritir draksham. Yuddhe chapya palayanam. Danamishvara bhavascha. Kshatram karma svabhavajam.
41 to 43.
Brahmana kshatriya visham. Shudranam cha parantapa. Karmani pravibhaktani. Svabhava prabhavairgunaihi. Shamodamastapa shaucham. Shantirarjavameva cha. Jnanam vijnanamastikhyam. Brahma karma svabhavajam. Shauryam tejo dhritir draksham. Yuddhe chapya palayanam. Danamishvara bhavascha. Kshatram karma svabhavajam.
Krishi gauraksha vanijyam. Vaishya karma svabhavajam. Paricharyatmakam karma. Shudrasyapi svabhavajam. Krishihi gauraksha vanijyam. Agriculture, dairy and cow protection, and business. Vanijya is business. Vaishya svabhavajam karma, or Vaishya's nature born karma. Paricharyatmakam karma. Shudrasyapi svabhavajam. Service is nature born karma of Shudra. So in this verse, both the Vaishya and the Shudra are described. Agriculture, raising and protecting cows, and dairy farming. These are the activities. The Vaishya is fully qualified to do it for the benefit of society. Trade, that is buying and selling. So the he brings he's engaged in dairy products. So he has to bring it to market and sell it to the market at a price that meets his cost, and it helps the people buy at a reasonable price that they can afford. So these are all factors built into the Vaishya. Now, there is only the description here limits to agriculture and related products. But in today's world, you got varieties of trades. The only difference is the varieties of products and that come into the market, they do not contribute to this spiritual growth. For the spiritual growth, agriculture is very important because we have to eat food, and then we need dairy products for yajna and all those things. So there is a relationship between the Vaishya relating to agriculture and dairy products to spiritual growth. So that is there. But in today's world, we have various different kinds of products that are satisfying only artha and kama. So these are the nature fit characteristics, the prescribed actions of Vaishya. Now, trade is a service of the Lord in the medium of society. What we do in trade, we buy and sell products and with society, and the society benefits by buying, and therefore there is the society is nothing different from God. If you are working in the context of this varna based description of the Vaishya, it is a service of the Lord. Agriculture, protection of cows, and trade are complementary to each other because they produce and they have to bring it to the market. Dairy farming bring milk products to society, and also as a part of this, you bring cow waste to be deployed as fertilizers in agriculture, and also as it was used as an energy source. They would make cow dung as a patty and use it in cooking and other activities wherever some stove is required. That was being done in that society. Therefore, the complete usefulness of the dairy products, from milk to the waste of the cows. So that is characterized as the Vaishya's duty. Trade is an extension of agriculture. In today's world, we talk of vertical integration, and therefore you produce and you bring it to the market. That's what the meaning is. So he brings these products to the market in the service of general public, and as I said, he sells them at reasonable prices, such that his business has to continue. People have to also to benefit from that. So these are the Swabhava born karmas of the Vaishya Varna. The service of people is the nature fit prescribed actions born of Shudra. Serving the community is a natural fit occupation for Shudra. Now in Kali Yuga, everybody is a Shudra. There is no, Brahmana. See, there is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra based on Varna, based on Guna. That is not the description that fits in today's world, because today's world is mostly desire motivated action, and the desire motivated action ultimately transcends to tamas, and that by everyone in today's world is doing a service of one kind or the other. And therefore, if we have to describe today's world as a varna based guna based society, we are all Shudras, but the guna-based classification of Varna is applicable in the spiritual growth, and it over time there is a reversal of the guna concentration. As we said, in the Krita Yuga, there is mostly Sattva Guna. Therefore, it is applicable in that time frame. But in today's world, we should not classify our activities as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra based on what we do. We are all in that sense Shudra, but there is a jati. In today's world, there is what is called a jati system. By birth, born to one of the four varnas, but the karma that is done by all of them is only that of the Shudra as per the guna-based varna system. So why this service? This service is designed to remove the ignorance and indolence inherent in him. By doing karma, there is a certain experience. that service is nothing but a karma. So there is a certain experience, and that experience helps in two ways. One is by engaging in karma, he is uh, reducing the laziness, that is the indolence, and by doing the karma, certain experience removes the ignorance. I didn't know that doing this karma gave me this XYZ. So that means that ignorance has been removed by doing the karma. So he overcomes the tamas proclivity. By doing karma, he becomes tamas, overcomes the tamas proclivity. And if he is major tamas, minor rajas, then he can turn that major tamas, minor rajas to major rajas and minor tamas, and he evolves himself into a Vaishya at that time. And then when he adds sattva to it, to the rajas, he becomes a Kshatriya, and then he reduces the rajas and increases the sattva, he becomes a Brahmana by the guna classification of the varnas. So thus practice spiritual growth in the path for liberation. Everyone is entitled to that. That we'll see in the next verse. Krishi Gauraksha Vanijyam.
Krishihi Gauraksha Vanijyam. Krishihi Gauraksha Vanijyam.
Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam.
Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam.
Paricharyatmakam Karma.
Paricharyatmakam Karma. Paricharyatmakam Karma.
Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam.
Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam. Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam.
Krishi Gauraksha Vanijyam. Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. Paricharyatmakam Karma. Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam.
Krishi Gauraksha Vanijyam. Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. Paricharyatmakam Karma. Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam. Krishi Gauraksha Vanijyam. Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. Paricharyatmakam Karma. Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam.
42 to 44.
Shamodamastapashaucham. Shantirarjavameva cha. Jnanam vijnanamastikyam. Brahma karma swabhavajam. Shauryam tejo dhrutirdakshyam. Yuddhe chapya palayanam. Dhanamishvara bhavascha. Kshatram karma swabhavajam. Krishi Gauraksha Vanijyam. Vaishya karma swabhavajam. Paricharyatmakam karma. Shudrasyapi swabhavajam.
Sve sve karmanyabhirataha samsiddhim labhate naraha swakarma niratas siddhim yata vindati tachrno. Sve sve karmani abhirataha, engaged in their natural fit karma. Sam naraha siddhim labhate, man attains to perfection. Tachrno, listen to me, that yatha swakarma nirataha siddhim vindati, by which one engaged in natural karma attains to success. Now, these four kinds of karma, there is nothing to say the one is superior to the other or one is inferior to the other. All the four karmas of the four varnas have one goal, and that goal is to attain siddhi. Siddhi is success, and the siddhi or the success is referring to the only self-realization, that is the moksha, and none of the other temporary successes that we achieve in life. if I got a good job and I pay certain amount, that is only a short-term benefit. Does not going to last forever. I may lose my job. So, but the siddhi, the success that you achieve in moksha is eternal. There is no loss of that siddhi at any time. Like any other success would be subject to short-term availability. So everyone devoted to his own duty, a person attains the highest perfection. Highest perfection is the moksha. Listen to me now, how he attains perfection, engaged in his own duty. That also Krishna is going to describe in the next verse. So we will stop here today and continue in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkhabhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanam. Now, this subject matter that we discussed today is a controversial subject matter in today's world. As I said, it is only in the context of spiritual growth that they make sense, and they don't make sense in the context of making a living. So that we should be very clear about. And anybody have any questions on particularly today's class? Being a controversial subject in today's environment, please feel free. I will see if I can answer that.
Oh, today's class was very good. I really enjoyed it. I think I agree with you what you said. We are all Sudras, I think it's well said.
Because we are motivated by the Artha and Kama. As long as we are motivated by the Artha and Kama, we are doing an inefficient work. There are two things. See, if we take the Varna system based on guna, we are doing an inefficient work. But on the other hand, our guna is only this, but somehow we are still carrying out this jati system of four varnas, and from just by birth. Now, birth only with respect to the gunas, then only we can look at it as these four characterized according to what Krishna has characterized. But if we are motivated only by the Artha and Kama, it doesn't make any sense to call it as a guna-based varna system, because a guna-based varna system is for the attainment of the highest perfection, that is moksha.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Thank you much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Wonderful class.
The
Thank you.
only thing I would like to add is the other ashrama, brahmacharya, and then grihastha-ashrama, vanaprastha, sannyasa holds good even today, depending on how much we can follow it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We will see you in the next class. I will, I will have